everyone. Welcome to day 7 of 31 days of hypermobile workouts. We had to pivot today. So we are going to take a little walk together. Wherever you are, whether it's in your house, in your yard, around the block, just like I'm doing, we're gonna take just a few minutes to take a little walk and talk about ways to make walking more accessible to hypermobile people. Now, we had to pivot today because my husband and I are currently staying in the mountains where our power has gone out for the last 3 days. Our Wi-Fi went out today and we have no cell service, so we had to get a little bit creative, but I'm hoping I'll be back in my mat home studio setup tomorrow and we'll just kick off from there. But for today, we're just gonna take a little walk around the block and talk about how walking can be really useful, but also definitely comes with certain challenges when you are hypermobile. I recently started a TikTok account, actually. Yeah, I finally succumbed and did that. But in this TikTok account, I have been just hearing a lot of commentary from people specifically around walking, specifically around how walking can be a struggle. And I actually totally get that. Some of you guys may know or remember from years past, there was actually a time when I was walking with a cane because I was dealing with such bad pelvic instability. Realistically, like probably a labral tear, but I still don't know because I couldn't get an MRI at the time. And I was using walking aids to get around, and I grew up in a walking family. We actually used to joke and call them death marches because like we would just walk and walk and walk, and in some ways I was really grateful for that. Like it definitely gave me an appreciation for just being able to walk distances, but in other ways it was also a really challenging mentality to work through when I was hitting this point in my early 20s where I couldn't walk distance. I could barely walk a block without pain, let alone, 5 miles. So in order to make walking more accessible, there are a couple of cues that I've used over the years that have just really made things very helpful. So one of the first things, and this is something that I come back to a lot, is focusing on your breath while you're walking. Obviously, I'm talking a lot here today, so I'm not doing so much focused breath work, but as you walk down the block, whether it's 20 feet, 50 feet, 500 feet, wherever you're at today, I want you to focus on inhaling through the nose, focus on where you're sending that breath, and then exhale it out. Now, oftentimes, people with hypermobility, especially those who struggle to walk because of low back pain, because of pelvic instability or pelvic pain, you'll take that in-breath and you'll realize everything just comes up here and you lift, and we can't get any breath further down. So as you're walking, I want you to inhale and try to send the breath a little lower, and then exhale. And do that again. Inhale and let the breath go a little bit lower, and then exhale again. And by doing that, we're literally just sending oxygen further down into the body, giving your pelvis a little bit more ability to eccentrically contract and concentrically contract in the way we want it to when you're just walking around town. Another cue that I actually cannot even remember where I learned this one or if I just thought of it randomly one day, but it stuck with me for a really long time, is focus on the movement of your feet. Focus on the connection of your feet to the ground. Like I said, when I was going through phases where I was just struggling a lot to really walk any sort of distance, I would get so hyper focused on my pelvis and my back, and I would just like immediately tense up. Even if I wasn't necessarily actually feeling pain yet, it would be that anticipatory feeling of like, oh crap, this is coming, this is gonna be bad. And like I said, I can't exactly remember where I learned this, but by focusing my attention to where my feet connect to the ground, it gave me this sense of propulsion. It gave me this sense of I am going forward. Not all of the tension and power is necessarily coming from my hips. My feet are very much a part of this equation. And if you're someone who, you know, has very hypermobile ankles, you roll a lot, this can also be very helpful in that because it brings your awareness lower to the ground. And obviously it's not physically going to change your center of gravity, but it'll mentally bring you down into that space. And I have just found it like wildly helpful on these walks, especially in moments where I do start to feel a little shifty or a little unstable or wobbly. All of a sudden I'll get it in my hips, especially now if I'm going like long distances, you know, 4 or 5 miles. I'll hit a point where my hips are like, no ma'am. And it's in that moment where I might shift my thinking and go, okay, I don't have a space to sit down right now, so how am I going to handle this? We shift the weight to the feet. We shift the focus to the feet. We bring the focus back into the breath. And then, of course, when you have to take rest, you have to take rest, and that's cool. And that is always something that, you know, I think is important to bring up. And this was actually, again, inspired by this like recent TikTok post I put out where this one woman commented and was like, you know, 20 minutes of walking is like a dream for me. Like I couldn't even imagine getting that. And I do totally get that because I've been right there with you. But even if you're starting with 10 feet at a time, 20 feet at a time, walk the distance of your apartment a couple of times, bring some of that intention into your walk and then build from there. And you start realizing, hey, I can do 20 feet if I focus on my feet. I can do 50 feet if I focus on my breath. And we kind of take our mind out of that space of, oh crap, this is gonna hurt, to what can I adjust to make it work? And then just know that you can always take breaks along the way. That is a huge part of the process. Walking is such an endurance sport. Like, it doesn't get enough credit. Like, I know it's not cross-country skiing or running, but walking distance is just an endurance sport. And that takes a little bit of a different approach than just brute strength training. So with that being said, I know this is a short one today. I apologize for all the technical difficulties, but if you're coming at this later, I hope you enjoy a nice walk. I hope you enjoy the cues. This is actually good timing because my shoulder is starting to get a little tired from holding this up. So I'm gonna call it a day. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. I will be back tomorrow for day 8. I am so crossing my fingers that this is gonna the Wi-Fi is gonna work and everything's gonna be fine, but please keep an eye on the YouTube community posting wall, because if anything does come up, I will let you guys know as soon as I can there. But so far, we're scheduled for day 8 and we're rocking and rolling. So take care, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.